Put down the hammer.
This is my truck, man.
Put down the hammer, sir.
Get some stuff on the inside.
You don't need that right now. Put down the hammer.
My truck.
Enough excuses. Put the hammer down and put your hands up.
How can he prove that it's his truck? What do you need? Registration.
Yeah. Let me see your ID and registration. Slowly.
Hey everybody, this is Nick Kangadis with MRC-TV, and we are here with the president of the Law Enforcement Legal Defense Fund, Jason Johnson. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And what is the main purpose for the Legal Defense Fund?
So our mission is twofold. First off is we raise money and we support law enforcement officers who have been wrongfully charged with crimes in connection with their actual duties. Secondly, we look to educate the public on matters directly affecting law enforcement, particularly law enforcement officers who are involved in these high-stress, high-scrutiny type scenarios like police-involved shootings.
And this is a nationwide program?
We're a national organization. We're based here in Alexandria, Virginia.
Beautiful. And what do you think the biggest misconception, the biggest misconception that you most often hear about law enforcement work?
I think oftentimes you even hear it in the mainstream media that people believe that law enforcement officers actually hope to be involved in a scenario where they can use force, particularly deadly force. My experience tells me otherwise, that most officers really, really hope that they're never involved in a scenario that involves the use of deadly force. And when they are, it's an extraordinarily stressful and difficult incident for them to get through, both during the incident itself and the danger, and then afterward, the aftermath and the thoughts about, could they have done something different? Should they have done something different? Were they prepared from a training perspective?
And with a program like we experienced today, what are you hoping? What do you hope is the biggest thing that the average person might walk away with?
Well, nothing teaches like actually being involved in a lifelike scenario. So what we hope to do is to provide participants with information, sort of a truncated version of the type of training that police officers receive, help them understand what the applicable law is, and what the best tactics are to employ to a high-risk situation. And then we put participants in the scenario, and it feels like you're really there, even though it's more like a video game. Because of the way that we structure it, it feels very real. And I think it allows people to have an appreciation for the stresses and the thoughts and trying to think on the spot and make a split-second decision that is in accordance with your training and is lawful action, and how difficult that can be. And then we debrief it to help participants learn. So next scenario, they can apply that same kind of thinking. And by the end of the training exercise, participants are sort of able to understand in some small measure the difficulty of facing those high-risk scenarios for law enforcement officers.
And how many times, and in all the time you've been doing this, how many instances of people that aren't necessarily, I guess for lack of a better term, supportive of the police, how many times do you get somebody like that going in there and then it completely changes their mind?
Well, it does happen. In fact, I have never seen someone who is not a police officer be exposed to this type of training and feel like they didn't walk away with some piece of information or some experiential learning that wasn't useful for them down the road. In fact, Cortland Malloy, who's a columnist for the Washington Post and has been a frequent critic of law enforcement over the years, did go through our scenario-based training and found it was very useful, and actually wrote a column on it and expressed how there were things about the thought process and the training of law enforcement officers that he hadn't appreciated before the training.
Let's think about this. Did that guy yell or move or say or do anything?
No, he didn't.
Why do you think that is?
Well, maybe he was protecting himself.
Or maybe he is unconscious or dying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
so remember what your job is now, to serve and to protect. Protect that guy on the ground.
What's it like on occasion to see that light go off for somebody?
That's why we do it. We want people to understand, no matter what their leanings are before they're exposed to this type of scenario, we want them to understand the stresses and challenges of these particularly challenging scenarios and how difficult it is to discern what the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do is. It really is. And so you're constantly balancing the safety of the officer, the safety of third parties who aren't involved, and the safety even of the person who the officer has been challenged by. So it's virtually universal that everyone that is exposed to it really gains a lot from it and walks away with a new appreciation for the difficulty. And then the next time, in the case of journalists, that they're covering a scenario like this, that they're really able to reflect back on what they learned and they understand the scenario in a different way. Not that they will always think that the officer's use of force decision was the correct one, but that they will understand the facts in a different way and appreciate sort of the balance between the two.
Well, for everybody at home, where can they learn more about the Law Enforcement Legal Defense Fund?
Well, our website is policedefense.org, and on our website we include a lot of information about cases that we are supporting, cases we've supported in the past, and some of the educational material that we like to highlight to help the public understand use of force scenarios and high-risk scenarios that police officers are involved in.
Thank you very much, President Jason Johnson of the Law Enforcement Legal Defense Fund. Folks, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Nick Kangadis for MRC-TV. Stay tuned for more.